why being calm doesn't really work. If I spoke so gently, why did it all still go very wrong? This is basically what happens when people misunderstand. It doesn't really guarantee any outcome for you. It's about your ego. Marhaba and how's it going, everyone? And welcome back to Yuwab, a space where we discover ourselves very deep and uncover the skills you require to thrive in this demanding world so you can live with better intentions. I'm your host, Saeed Alghafri. It means a lot to me that you're spending this time with me. I really want to see you grow, and that drives me to make this podcast. Today, we are unpacking a truth that often confuses leaders who think they are emotionally aware, and that is why being calm doesn't really work and what that really tells you. Let's dive deep into this. Before we start, let me ask you this thing. Have you ever stayed calm and chose your words so carefully and kept your voice very steady and still nothing changed? And the other people didn't even hear you. They did not even soften, and they did not even meet you halfway. Did that happen to you? And then you were wondering, you know what, if I spoke so gently, why did it all still go very wrong? You know, we always tell ourselves, let's just stay calm. Or maybe we should use a softer tone when it comes to speaking to people. Or you know this famous bumper sticker or the thing that you put the t-shirt which says keep calm and whatever. This is basically what happens when people misunderstand what really calm communication is. Because calm communication is very powerful. But when you think about it just by itself, it doesn't really guarantee any outcome for you. Because, you know, communication is not only about words. Communication is all about context. It's about the audience that you're trying to tell them what you're trying to tell them. It's about your ego. And I know sometimes ego is not good, but when it comes to communication, ego becomes very important because that's your character. It's about how ready you are and how big is your emotional capacity. You know, throughout my experience, I know a lot of people who speaks perfectly all the time. I mean, flawless, I'll be completely honest with you. But you see people or the audience who receive that message are not really getting the message that they're trying to deliver. Not because they have failed, and this is the most important thing, because the other person or the audience were not really available. They weren't very much tuned. You know why this is important? For me, communication is a very important skill that any leader should acquire. I'll be completely honest with you. Why is that important? Because right now, time and technology make things so demanding on us and it's so fast. Even our attention today get distracted very quickly and easily because of what we see in front of us. You know, many emotionally intelligent people think that softening the message, you know, would guarantee audience attention, but that's not the case all the time. And you see them internalize that mistake and they'll be like, you know what? Maybe this will be like this. Or maybe next time I should explain this much more better. Maybe if I was much more calmer, it could have been that, you know? Maybe I should be patient. And they try harder and harder. And they just soften more. And they just soften more. And they minimize themselves further. Here is the truth. Being calm is really amazing. Really amazing. But it doesn't really work when the accountability is missed. or absent when you're trying to speak to that audience. It doesn't land you the respect that you deserve, and the defensiveness of the other person or the audience will be very much active. You may be thinking that being calm gains the other people's respect. You know what? Not really. Not really. You need to get their attention. And that's the most important thing. That would lead you to being calm on just the outside. But internally, you know what happens? You are very much burned out and overwhelmed since you weren't very much successful in delivering your message. And you're just going to burn yourself more and more and more. And eventually, what will happen is that you'll see yourself getting stuck, and people would lose confidence in you and direction. Let me give you a couple examples. And these are some examples that we see in our real life. Someone comes to you, and then you tell them, you know what, I'm leaving today by 4 p.m. And they basically ignore you and they give you work at 4 p.m. Another example, you speak gently in a repetitive mistake that that person does. Let's say that other person does the same mistake over and over and over. And then you go speak to them gently. And then nothing happens. And you talk calmly to your kids. I have kids. And you tell them the importance of them doing the homework. And they just ignore you. And what happens is you explain your needs very clearly and in detail and explicit. They acknowledge that and they just dismiss you. At some point, calm becomes, quite suffering. Let me share with you a few stories I've encountered in my life for calm people. When I was younger, I was fortunate to observe senior people. At that time, I wasn't really speaking, I wasn't communicating very much, so I had the privilege to observe. Honestly, one of my greatest time in my life. There was this guy, very respectful guy. He is a true gentleman by mean. Very humble, very humble. Yet he was leading one of the most complex and critical functions in that company. This guy was always calm and always gentle. What happens? Everyone literally was much more louder than him. I remember in a meeting one time, someone was so rude to that person, honestly. And I felt the guy was really attacking me, to be honest with you. That person was not attacking me. He was talking to that guy, the calm guy. Honestly, I did not like it. And one time I just stood up and spoke in his defense. I couldn't really take it. It was really so bad. He came to me later and said, Saeed, please don't do this again, in a very nice tone. And I was burned inside. This guy eventually, his message, just had the same tone every time. If there was an urgent situation or a normal situation, he would basically use the same tone. Everyone, reached a point where they would cut him, jump into his statements, and eventually the guy was boiling from the inside. I could see it, I could feel it, And then he would respond nicely back to these people. And he reached a point where he wasn't really interested to go to any meeting. And he would respond by email because he hated any confrontation. What happened eventually is that they moved that person to another function, And I was like, come on, man, come on. You were in an amazing, fantastic spot. Why did you allow that to happen? But he was okay with it. He was fine. And I was like, hopefully he would get better. Same scenario, same calmness, everything. People did not really respect him. People could, just look up to him and say he wasn't really a good leader, honestly, although he was a nice guy and really a gentleman. But that environment dictated something else. What happened eventually is that he couldn't take it and he left the company. I'm like, Alhamdulillah, Allah rahmah, what a liberation. Because honestly, what we saw on frequently on a weekly basis was not really good. This is a story that tells you that what happens in real life. Now, this is a second story that I've seen. This is a guy that I one time basically coached him. One time. It was only one time. And when he approached me, he was like, Saeed, I'm going to go with you for maybe 10 sessions. I'm like, okay, great, no problem. So the guy came from a different country to a different country. So it's basically completely two different cultures, and the companies operate completely different in these two countries, completely different. What happened? The guy did not acknowledge the difference in corporate culture. And what happened is that when he came the first time, this was the first interaction with everyone in the company. People saw that this is the man. He looked so tough on the outside. Honestly, you wouldn't even dare speaking to him, to that person. The moment he opens his mouth, honestly, he's the most respectful, calm, and he has the softest, lowest voice I've heard in my life. I mean, people would tell him, raise your voice all the time. Now, what happened is that eventually people disrespected the person, and he was cut off multiple times. Even when the person was speaking, no one paid attention to him. Honestly, it's a very sad reality. Very sad reality. But anyway, that's the tag you pay when you go to a place and you don't understand the corporate culture and you don't know how to communicate. It's, by the way, normal if you don't take the effort to understand and adjust. He reached a point where he would just, thinking like, oh, I should maybe go back to my old company. And this is where when he reached out to me. We didn't do any magic, honestly, because he knew the solution. He changed completely, slowly and completely. He became much more firmer and much more respected. He actually one time was offered basically a higher salary and position somewhere else. And then what happened is that the company that he was in told him, stay, we'll give you a higher position and a higher salary after he changed. Now, you know what this guy did? He actually sat down and he drew the complete, like a map of the company he's in. Characters, how do they behave? What are the meetings they have? And he studied literally everyone. I told you the guy is intelligent. And how they behave and how they respond. And he knew how to manage each and every one. And that's how he was very much successful. It took him actually 1 year to basically succeed in doing that. But again, the guy knew how to basically turn this around into something very beneficial. So here is 3 key truths about calm communication. The first one, calm words does not really work if there is no mutual respect. People think that if I'm calm, the other person will give me their respect. Absolutely not. If there is no mutual understanding, forget about it. And you will have to establish firmness when it comes to dealing with people. Let me tell you how that works. If someone cut you while you're saying a statement, you should go back and tell them, I'm not really finished, and let me complete my statement. If someone disrespects you, you should be like, let's be objective and let's stay focused and very much respectful. Be like that. If really calm does not work for you at work, all right, you should always stay firm on your views and not really change it. And that will give you the respect. The more you have a respect with the other person, the more you can have peace with yourself. The second thing, calm is not about words. It's all about delivery. What happens is that when you are in a situation where when you're delivering something, you should listen and look around before you even respond. And that will help you adjust your tone. pick the right word for you to basically have your statement. My advice, and I've done that, hire a communication coach. It's very useful. And practice. I'll tell you why. Because, words are not really enough. There is body language, there is the tone up and down. There's so many things happening. And when you have a coach, you can practice scenarios when you're really overlooked. And that really helps you and speed up your learning curve. You'll see yourself adapting your tone, changing your body language, and always remember, communication is all about how effective you speak. It's not about the words you choose or fancy words. The third thing is, and this is important, not everyone is ready to hear you. Period. That person is not there to hear you. Even if you have calm words, it doesn't really work. Because it's very much important on both sides, not only one side. Some people aren't really avoiding your message. You may be thinking they're avoiding your message, but they're just avoiding responsibility. They don't want to take a decision, or they don't want to listen to you. And no matter how soft you are, that will not fix the situation. And here is the truth. You have to take a tough decision when it comes to your well-being and mental health, because you don't want to burn yourself. Eventually, it's either you or them. You have to really choose wisely. Now, I'd like you to take a moment and ask yourself, after hearing this episode, where are you today from staying calm? And where do you feel you're calm and feel that you are really unseen? And who really hears your tone but really ignores your message? And what boundary are you going to have today to explain to the other person that this is my boundary and it has to be respected? And what are you afraid would happen if someone spoke or overcut you? I'd like you to write it down and honestly answer each one, because awareness is the beginning of any change in this life. And always remember, calm communication is a powerful tool. It's not really a solution, but it's really incomplete when it's basically just words. Sometimes the lesson is not to be calmer. It's about being clearer, firmer, and more aligned with yourself. Because real communication is not about being gentle all the time. It's about being truthful and heard at any cost. And as we end, I want to leave you with this. If calm words are really not working, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world and you're doing something wrong in your life. Absolutely not. It may mean that you are speaking to someone who is really not listening to you. And you are allowed to move from being calm to being clear. It's you who should decide. And don't forget, very important, if this podcast speaks to you or someone that you may know who's really calm, please share this episode with them. And rate my episode in Apple Podcast and Spotify, because this really, really helps me a lot. All right? Thank you so much for spending the time with me on Yuwab. And until next time, stay grounded and stay aware. مع السلامة.